Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is kind of chilly this morning. Caitlin had to leave like at 4:45 this morning to meet a girl that's in her gardening landscaping class so that they could ride together to the other school that she goes to in the mornings for another floriculture competition. So she's out all day doing plant CSI type things, and she totally forgot her money. I texted her this morning and I said, "Did you get there on time?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you remember your money?" She goes, "No, I left it in my bag." I'm like, "Oh, crud." So she's going to set up Apple Pay because I know for sure McDonald's takes Apple Pay, so she won't starve. But I'm like, she was just not going to eat today. I'm like, "No, that's not good." I'm like, "No, honey, don't just not eat. We can figure something out. I wish I could send you money." And then she's like, "Hey, I can do Apple Pay." This morning, we have another fun-filled day of measuring. So in Power Hour groups, we're doing perimeter, and they did really great yesterday. We watched the Brain Pop Junior on perimeter, and then we took the quiz to make sure they understood how it worked. And then we practiced with some shapes that already had the sides, like the lengths of the sides marked on the paper, and they added them up, and then we checked our answers to make sure everybody was doing well. And then today, they're going to be using a book that I created where they will measure the sides of the shapes and determine the perimeter of each shape. And if there's still time, I have some like little perimeter games they can play. I don't know if you really call it a game, more of an activity where they use a paper clip and spin to get the number of sides to draw the shapes. And they have grid paper for that. And there's another one where they roll 2 die, and one number that they get is the length, and the other number they roll is the width, and they draw rectangles. Some of them may end up being more square, but that is going to be cool, and they figure up the perimeter from that. And then Thursday, we will probably do a perimeter and area activity to get them ready to do area next week. So next week will be all about area. And they're very excited. They're like, "This is cool." And they're like, is this higher math?" I said, "Yeah, this is like 3rd grade math." And they're like, "Cool." These guys are totally ready for that. They're totally ready for a little bit of enrichment. So I'm excited to be able to do that with them. It was, I think I mentioned yesterday, really hard to find activities with just perimeter. I just wanted to start with perimeter so it wasn't so confusing. Although I don't know that adding area is going to be confusing, but I wanted them to be really good at figuring out the outside dimensions of something before we added the inside part. Because area is kind of multiplication, so I'm sure they're going to do fine because we're going to use grid paper where they can count the squares, the blocks, or whatever. So it will be good. This morning, my little pod of teamies is going to meet to work on our pacing guide for ELA for first quarter. The other pod is going to take the reading portion, and we're going to do the writing portion. So it won't be bad at all. We should have a pretty decent time doing it. We'll have a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I think, once we get our kids to specials and get our materials together and hang out in a room. So I think that's going to be great because we can bounce ideas off each other for like lessons and things. And I have made cinnamon rolls. Now, nothing real super exciting, just the kind that you pop out of a tube. But they are fresh, and I'm going to frost them at school because I didn't want to have to worry about having a sticky mess. Because whenever you cover stuff like that, you always get the frosting on the covering that you put on there, like the foil or the plastic wrap. I didn't want to lose any of the yummy frosting. So the frosting is in my lunch bag, and the cinnamon rolls are covered in foil. So that'd be good. And I remembered my breakfasts and lunches. Yay, so I won't starve today. And everything's going to be great today, I think. It should be outside recess. There shouldn't be any rain today. So it's going to be good all around. I don't foresee any issues. We don't have anything strange going on. No extra testing or anything. Just kind of a normal week, which sometimes it's just nice to have a normal week, you know? Nothing fancy, nothing extra. Just kind of just learning and having fun together. So I am going to go now because it's about time to get on the big highway. And I'll chat with you later when I get a chance. Hi, it's lunchtime. I've just heated my lunch and we just got finished doing some more comprehension and vocabulary activities with Catching the Moon. And we did a context clues quiz to see how they did. They were 6 words, I do believe. Yes. And I read the sentences and then I said blank in the space where there wasn't a word. And I said, pick which one you think will fit there the best. And they wrote them in. It was very quiet. They did a great job. Also, we read a couple of the comprehension little passages, and I had students tell me what they thought the character was going to do because it kind of stopped and you had to figure out what was going to happen next. And we had some great ideas based on the text. That was awesome. We also read a passage about women's baseball leagues in like the end 30s and beginning 40s during World War II. And they picked out the differences of the women's baseball league versus the men's baseball league. So that was really good. Spotting the differences, comparing and contrasting, which was really good. They were like, why? Why? And I said, well, because times were different then. Times were totally different. I'm going to eat my lunch in a little bit, and we're going to be doing the Cursive G after recess and the Jackie Robinson book. Then I'll have my reading group time. So I'll meet with I think it's 2 groups today because I meet with my high group longer today. They meet the same number of days as the other groups, but longer on one day and much shorter on the other day. The other day is kind of a check-in day, and today would be like the meat of the lesson and things. So the other one, they're more independent. I have them be with me for a little bit of time and I send them off to go do something and they check back. But today is kind of like the explanation, the introduction, all that kind of stuff. So I'll be taking some more notes on some kiddos. I've been doing really well with that. I'm kind of proud of myself because it wasn't something I did consistently. I would jot down something if it was something really like, wow, that's a problem. We really need to work on that. But I didn't really write down the subtle things that they were doing. And you need to work on the subtleties too, because something that's subtle now might not stay subtle if it continues. So if we can grab the subtle things and fix them, like the things that are sometimes an issue, fix them, then it'll be much easier for them to read, for sure. I need to print out a self-reflection sheet for a kiddo because we're gonna have a conference after school today, and I think hers got thrown away because it was several weeks ago, and I think it got put in a place where I cleaned. So I said, oh, I'm gonna make you a new one, I'm sorry. But you know, she might have something different to say now too. So I'll be doing that so she can work on that real quick. Okay, I'm gonna go and get my things done and eat my lunch, and I'll check back in with you at the end of the day. All right, so Caitlin's going to state for plants and she's going to state for vocals. Woo! Her senior year is ending really well. Pretty cool. All right, I'm going home. It is 4:30 and I was talking to one of my team members about just random stuff after taking the kids to the buses, and we were just kind of talking about things we need to do and things we've noticed and just random kind of things. We did meet in our little group of our end of the hallway to start on first quarter's pacing guide for reading. Turns out we didn't need to do writing because that's going to be taken care of in the summer by a writing team. So we are going to focus on like phonics and reading skills, and we were kind of lost as to how to get started. So we texted our instructional coach and asked if she could come help us, and she jumped up there and guided us, and we're like, oh, okay, totally, we know what to do. So tomorrow we're going to get together again and really get some stuff done, because today was mostly a lot of confusion and clarification. So now we know what we're doing. I have one awesome cinnamon roll left. I'm going to save it for my lovely daughter so she can have it when she comes home. She might want a snack. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I mentioned this morning. I don't think I did. She had forgotten her money. Yeah, I may have mentioned that. Forgot her money in her bag, and she rode with a friend, so she didn't have her bag with her. So she ended up being out of town, just to the town on the other side of where we live. So not terribly far, but didn't have anything to get food with. So I was like, well, you know, we could do, I should be able to send you some money somehow. So she was trying to set up Apple Pay. Well, I had given her my Discover card information and stuff, and she tried to set it up, and I may have mentioned all this before, but it's been a long time ago, so I'll just rehash. Sorry about that. Anyway, I had the home phone still as my primary contact phone number. I haven't had a home phone for a while. It's been the cell phone, so I had to go back in and change my information on my Discover profile. Well, because I did that, I guess it flagged things or something. I don't know. So she got a message on her end that we needed to call Discover to get the code that we needed to make it work for Apple Pay. I'm like, ah. So I'm like, okay, well, just use my MasterCard then. We can use that. So I sent her the information for that, and she said, here's the message that I got. It said it wasn't supported. MasterCard wasn't supported on Apple Pay. Seriously? How is MasterCard not supported on Apple Pay? I think there was some weird thing that happened there, because I cannot imagine MasterCard not being accepted on Apple Pay. If they take Discover, why wouldn't they take MasterCard? I would think they'd take the big three: MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, wouldn't they? And Visa, probably the top 4. So, I don't know. It was weird. I said, oh man. So, I was able to get a hold of Discover real quick and get that straightened out so she could get some food. And then she went to McDonald's and she goes, do you take Apple Pay? And they looked at her like she was a squirrel with 3 heads. And so one of her friends just ended up ordering for her, and we just owe her money now. I'm like, after all of that. And it didn't make any difference. I thought all McDonald's took Apple Pay. I mean, the McDonald's here do. And, like, we don't live in a very big place. And the place she went to was actually bigger than here. So I don't know what that was all about. I don't know if it was maybe she went to a college campus. Maybe the college campus McDonald's didn't take Apple Pay. I don't know. She said they looked at her like she was out of her mind. And I was like, oh, well, that's great. So now we owe this girl, very sweet girl in her class, money. I said, that's okay. I'll give you money to pay her back. Not a problem. We can just pay her back tomorrow. She has class with her every day, so it's not a deal. But after all of that rigmarole, and when I called Discover, first they said, we have several customers ahead of you in line. Your wait is between 2 and 4 minutes. I'm like, well, I can't do that. I got things to do. It didn't take that long, though. So then they asked me some weird questions. They're like, okay, well, to verify this, looks like you're trying to set up Apple Pay. I'm like, yes, we would like to do that. And she's like, okay, well, I just need to ask you a few questions with multiple choice answers. And when I get to the right answer, you stop me and tell me. I'm like, okay. So one of them was like, on your driver's license, what is the color that you put down for your eyes? And I'm like, okay. So I told them. And then they said, okay, here's a list of some cars that you said that you have owned in the past. Stop me when I get to one that's right. And it was like all these random cars, and I was like, oh, we have one of those right now. And she's like, this one? I'm like, yep. She's like, okay, that was easy. I'm like, sure. This has not been easy. Like, the phone call was easy, but getting to that point in my life to try to get this poor girl some Apple Pay had not been easy. But it wasn't the Discover card lady's fault. She was very helpful. And they're very nice. If you've ever called Discover and you've had any issues with any of your cards or anything not working or whatever, they're very, very nice. Their customer service is wonderful. So she said, all right, well, we've got that resolved. Is there anything else I can do for you today? And I said, no, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for your help. And she's like, oh, well, thank you very much. Because I'm sure that they don't hear that kind of thing very often, because a lot of times they're getting griped at. Like, customer service people, you must have hearts of gold and be angelic, because I don't think I would have the patience for that job. I really don't. I think I'd be like, well, listen here, lady. You don't need to be taking out your issues on me. But, so that would not be the job for me, right? That is why I don't do that job. But some people are just really good at smoothing over situations. So, props to Discover. I really had a great experience with your customer service lady today. So, yay you. Plus, you have awesome cashback bonuses, which are great for Amazon. I don't have any major plans tonight. I'm just going to go home and get myself ready for bed. Figure out something for supper. Get my clothes ready, all that stuff, and just relax for a while, because I'm not like I'm like not exhausted tired, but I'm just normal tired for this time of year, because you're trying to get everything in, and I just feel like I'm always moving, which is good, because it's very productive. We're getting things done, that's for sure. And I'm trying to allow my kids to be more independent. Like, I'm giving them more independent things to complete and bring to me when they're finished so I can look it over. I gotta tell you, they're loving cursive. Well, not all of them. Most of them, I'd say, are loving cursive. Because it's big kid writing, right? So we did the letter G today, and they did a really nice job. So now they can write 3 letters. Woohoo! I'm gonna have to start doing more than 1 letter a day to get through the whole thing, though. Because we have, 52 letters, really, if you count the capitals and lowercase. So I'm gonna have to step it up a little bit. Might need to do 1 before lunch and 1 after recess. I think they would be okay with that because they're enjoying it. And they are getting a little faster at it because they know kind of how it works. I demonstrate on the board. I've just been taking a picture of the practice page, and then I show them how to get the letters started, which right now all the letters start the same way because they're all the loopy letters. So we did like an A, and then we did a D, and then we did a G. So today they got to write the word GAD. They're like, what is that? I'm like, I don't really know. Let's look it up. I am almost home. So it was about 4:30 when I left. It's about 20 to 5 now. And I'm not sure what time Caitlin will be home, but she's going to be super excited to tell us about her day and how they get to go to state. That's amazing. So I'm going to go home and get myself ready for bed, feed my kitties, figure out something for supper. I got to be honest, I've been a huge slacker in the making dinner department. We've done lots of leftovers. We've done like super easy, like throw it in the oven and bake it kind of things. I just don't have the energy to even think about food when I get home. I'm not even really that hungry when I get home. I'm just tired. I just want to be and kind of just let my mind go, So Caitlin should be home a little bit after I am, I would think. And then my husband should be home around the same time. So I think I'm going to go for now. Hello, happy Wednesday. So it is lunchtime. I'm heating this today. Super yummy. And we have had a jam-packed morning full of lots of great learning. So in Power Hour, the kids had to spin to get the length of their sides to make rectangles and squares, and then get the perimeter of those, and they marked them on a grid paper. They did great with that. After I showed them a few examples, they were a little confused. And I said, oh guys, have you noticed that you need to use your larger number for your height? And they're like, yeah. I said, yeah, me too. So we did a few examples together first so they could get the swing of it. And then for Go Math today, we did lesson 7. It's chapter 8. Lesson 7, estimating things in feet. So we went around the room and we got to take our ruler to see what we could find that was about the same size as a ruler. And then they got to estimate later. That was cool. And I had a walkthrough through that time, which was awesome because we went around and talked to some of the kids to see what they were doing. The kids knew exactly what we were doing. I had the learning target. I talked about it. And they were enjoying it because anytime you can get the kids up and moving, it's always good. They really enjoy measuring with their rulers. They think it's awesome. They think it's like big kid math, which it kind of is. So pretty fun. We talked about literal and non-literal language together when we read, and we sorted some phrases into literal and non-literal, and then we put them together like, what's the literal meaning of this non-literal phrase? And then we did an activity where I gave them a phrase and they drew it like he was sick as a dog. So we drew a sick dog, and then we wrote what that actually meant, and we did 5 of those. So a few of the kids need to do a little bit of the writing part, but the rest of them got finished, and I checked their papers. They did a great job. Another one was I slept like a log, and we talked about why people say that. Usually these are just exaggerations. So they were really understanding it. It was pretty cool. Some of them were not as easy as others. They maybe hadn't heard them before. So that was pretty cool. After lunch, we're going to do 2 cursive letters because I realized we don't have enough days left to do just 1 a day. So we will do 2 a day. So we're going to finish up the first set of loopy letters. We're going to do the letter Q and the letter C. I've already shown them how you make them. I will show them again after recess on the board. I'll project the 2 pages. I've just been taking a picture of the page and projecting it and then actually physically showing them on the board. And then I go around and make sure they're doing okay. And one student yesterday was having a little trouble with the G, the little loop on the bottom of the G, the little tail. And so I just held her hand and we did it together so she could feel what that was supposed to feel like. And then when she hooked it to the next letter. We only have 2 lessons left in this chapter of math. So tomorrow we're going to be selecting an appropriate tool for measuring. And then the last one is to measure lengths of objects and use a line plot to display the measurement data, which I think is going to be fun because graphing type activities the kids always like, and this will be a new type of graphing because they have not done line plots before, so that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that. I've been telling the kids all along that if they wanted to do the homework pages, they were welcome to do them, and they could bring them back and they could get a punch on the work card, but it was not required because we do all of our math in class, so I can help them. But some of them like to take it home and do homework, which is cool, and then the parents get to see everything, which is nice. They do take their pages home, but we don't always do it every day because it just takes a while to take those pages out. So sometimes I wait a little bit to send the pages home. But it's always in our newsletter what we're doing, so they always know what's coming up. All right, I'm gonna eat my lunch, and I have a list of things to do. I have a collective goods order that I need to tally up and send to the lady that brings the things to us. And I have a student paperwork thing I need to do and send that in by the end of the day. And then I need to find some area activities and lessons for next week for Power Hour. I need to start on my newsletter and my lesson plans for next week too. So plenty to do. So I'll check back with you at the end of the day and let you know how things are going. Hello, it's the end of the day and we're headed home. I'm not sure if we're gonna go out tonight or not. Caitlin was kind of wanting to celebrate all her victories, going to state with all kinds of things, but we'll see if we still have the energy in a couple hours when her dad gets home. Anyone's guess. Today was pretty good. The kids listened pretty well. We're kind of back in the swing of things, I think, finally. So that's good. Getting some good work done. Making progress for fourth quarter. That's really awesome. Tomorrow's another day. Yes. So there really isn't much to talk about. So I'm just going to say goodnight and I'll see you tomorrow. Good afternoon. It is lunchtime. I'm just heating up the rest of my breakfast because I didn't finish it this morning. And we went ahead and did 2 cursive letters. We did I and U, and they were very easy. The kids were like, "Yeah, this is easy." I was like, "I'm glad." So they did a great job with it too. And we did some rhyming today. I read a poem and had them pick out the rhyming words and write them on a scrap paper. And then I gave them a smaller sheet of the same poem, like a half size, and they marked the rhyming words in the poem and they glued them in their interactive notebook. So now they have that poem that they can read later. It's about spring. So that was pretty cool. They had a little trouble getting started hearing the rhymes, but once they got the rhythm of the poem, they kind of learned when to listen for them, and they didn't have any trouble after that. There was a word in the poem, lass, that they didn't know what it was. I said, "Oh, do you know what lass is?" And they're like, "No." I said, "Oh, that's just another word for girl." And I talked about how in Europe they call lads and lasses, and so that was kind of cool. You don't usually hear that term here, but I'm sure you hear that in other countries very often. I think we're going to try to do one of those a week. A listening, and then they'll get it later to put into their interactive notebook, so they'll have it. So they're listening for it and writing it down. Then we checked it. I read through it again and I said, "What did you write down?" And I wrote them down so they could check the spelling, and then later they'll have the same poem, just a smaller version of it, to put in their notebook so they can have it. And I went and checked everybody's words that they circled or underlined to make sure they got the right ones. I have a few that I need to go back and help because they started just circling the last word of every line, and that's not exactly where the rhymes were all the time. It did change the rhythm just slightly partway through, and we talked about rhythm in a poem and how you kind of get into the rhythm of something. You can have a beat and you can speak it to the beat. So they thought that was kind of cool. Oh goodness, it has been a whirlwind morning. We have done a lot. This afternoon we're going to be starting on writing down things for our science fair projects. So I want them to fill out like an organizer. They need to start with their testable question, their topic and their testable question. So I need to review the scientific method with them so they remember exactly what we're going to do. So I think there's a brain pop on that. But the problem is I have not been able to project things on my board today. Like I said for math, for Go Math today, I said, well, I tried and tried and tried and tried. I turned off the Wi-Fi. I turned on the Wi-Fi. I restarted my computer. I did this, that, and the other. And it just would not connect. And so I don't know if it's the rainy weather or my computer's being goofy. I don't really know. So I said, well, looks like we're going to do it old school today. So I got my teacher manual out and we just went page by page. And I just hand wrote everything out so we could work on everything we need to do. Today was choosing the appropriate tool for what you're measuring. And they totally got it. And we got to go around the room and measure different things. And then it showed why you would want to use something that wasn't the same as just a plain old ruler to measure some of the things. Because some of the things were really big. And they're like, oh, wow, that took forever. I'm like, yeah. So it illustrated why you would want like a yardstick for larger things. Or why you would want a tape measure or a measuring tape for round things. So that was pretty cool. And then we went through different scenarios. Oh, if you were going to measure this, what would you use? If you're going to measure this, what would you use? And so they did great on that. So they should do really well on their post test because that's part of it, choosing the appropriate tool for what you're measuring. So I also had them explain their thinking. I'm like, why would you use that? Why couldn't you just use this? Because you could use an inch ruler to measure anything that you use a yardstick for, but it just takes longer. It takes 3 times as long. And so they're like, yeah, it would be faster. I'm like, yes, it would. Definitely. So that was really cool. I'm glad they made that connection. Okay. I am just out of breath because I've been running around. I believe we'll have inside recess because it's been very, very rainy today, which is why I had a headache when I got up and felt all kind of gross. But it's okay. You know, once I get into the teaching, I don't really think about how I feel because I'm too busy, right? I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. So this afternoon, after recess, we've already done cursive for the day. So they are going to start researching their science project and we're going to fill out their organizers. I've got the project boards. They came in yesterday. They're bigger than the ones I use for Mathful, so that's cool. They have plenty of room to put all of their information. And then we have counseling today, so that's awesome. And I have a birthday boy, and we haven't done his book, so we'll probably do his book this afternoon too, because I totally forgot. Bad teacher, bad. I did give him his birthday bag and his birthday straw, but I totally forgot about the book pages. So we should do that when we come back from recess, and then they can start doing their science fair stuff. And I'll send people to the library as well, because all of that is individual time, independent time, so it'll be fine. And we can talk about the graphic organizer first, and then we can start on that and the birthday page. So that will be nice. All right, I've been thinking ahead to next week, kind of figuring out what I'm going to do for Power Hour. We're going to start with area next week. And my group really enjoyed perimeter, I think, because we did different ways of finding the perimeter. They got to trace things and find the perimeter. They got to go around the room and measure things to find the perimeter. They had objects on a page that they measured to find perimeter. So I tried to do a mixture of different things, different activities where they could practice that. And they did really well. They said, man, this is a lot of adding. I went, yeah, the more sides you have, the more adding there is, isn't there? And they're like, yeah. So they kind of learned whenever they got to choose what they measured, they picked things that were smaller in size. They didn't have as many sides and they weren't as big. They didn't have to measure as much. I'm like, I don't blame you for that. So I got out my little foam blocks. They had different things that they could measure. I got out the pattern blocks, and then they could just measure stuff around the room too. And I think they enjoyed that. They seem to have a good time. So we'll have that starting again next week, Monday through Thursday. We'll do area, and there are lots of cool projects you can do with that. So they'll probably be creating things with certain areas in them. So I think that'll be really fun. All right, I'm going to get back to work because I need to send home a note about our Star Jar party tomorrow and get myself ready for this afternoon. So I'll try to chat with you after school. Good morning, happy Friday.